Hi, Bakytzhan.
Hi, nice to
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. We are not understanding our power, and it seems like we are doing better in the last 3 years than ever before. It's all about AI right now. I knew nothing before my starting the journey, but you have to create a communication first with that investor. You will spend more time with him or her rather than with your partner.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Astana Times YouTube channel. I'm your host Astana, and I'm joined today by Bakytzhan Zhakazhanov, the founder of IT Academy and expert in IT industry in Kazakhstan. Thank you, Bakytzhan, for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting us, El.
So one of the first questions that I want to start with is, could you tell us more about your journey in the IT industry here in Kazakhstan?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, I would divide it for several steps because I have started my journey back in 7 years ago. So in that times, the financial industry was in a hype, I would say. So I studied economics and finance. Basically in 2012, it was probably one of the most popular specialization apart from the oil and gas industry. So I studied economics, and then I worked for 2 years in a financial industry, the PricewaterhouseCoopers, named as a Big Four company. So basically, I worked for 2 years and then understood that involving in several big data projects and in the hype of big data and data science, I made some pet projects. That's how I started moving my transition to IT industry. But before that, I understand that I'm barely having a knowledge about the scope of this sphere. So that's why I decided to move on thanks to the program of Balashak. That's the governmental scholarship program that helped me to study in one of the top universities in the US. So the university called University of California, San Diego. So I studied in San Diego for 2 years. I also worked into one of the big companies called Bainbridge. It's the large company in the US who have IT consulting and services. Also the second company called Kyriba in a fintech and anti-fraud IT industry. They were located in Pasadena, near Los Angeles and San Diego. So I basically studied and worked as a data scientist for 2 years. Then I came back to Kazakhstan. That's how my journey started here. I worked for the US startup called Orbi Prime. I started working as a data analyst and then moved to the product management. So in short, I studied economics, then worked as an audit and consulting industry, then moved to the data science. Didn't like it that much, so then that's how I moved to the product management. So as of now, I'm working in the product management and have own academy.
And if you would explain it to in a more understandable language, like product management, what is it? What do you do as a product manager?
Actually, it's one of the easiest and the most asked questions. Meanwhile, it's quite difficult to explain because each industry has their own specific of product management. Product manager, not the specific knowledge, it's the domain knowledge plus the IT management knowledge. So basically, if you are working in a fintech, so you have a financial knowledge plus tech knowledge. If you are good in medicine, so med tech, so that's how we explain. You have to have a domain knowledge and have to have a IT management knowledge. Basically, product manager is the people who understands the user needs, also have very clear understanding of the stakeholders, business owners or investors that they want money. So they have to know how to cover the needs of the users and earn the money for the business. Otherwise, it might be called social startup, but when you have to earn money, you are making the KPIs, OKRs. So product manager is the people who understand the user needs, experiments with the IT compound and IT soft applications to make the KPIs to earn money for the company.
So your journey was quite diverse, starting from finance sector, then switching to data science, as you mentioned, and now you have your own academy. Could you tell us more about your own academy, what it's doing, and what are some of the progress that it has made?
I would try to make from the helicopter view. So basically, that's how I came to the own IT academy. Before that, I worked as a product manager in one of the large IT companies in Kazakhstan, my car group. So basically what we did 8 different services, like the classified, where you can see a lot of auto services. So it's like marketplace for auto selling. Also, we had a fintech inside of that, so you can buy the afterward for different promo and from different services. The third one is that we made online dealer, which basically means you can have an after by purchasing it online. So it's one of the interesting and new things. And like that, we have also other 5 services, internal services. So the academy was started by the demand from the students, from different specialists, switchers we call. So switcher is the people who wants to change and switch their profession. So a lot of people asked me from the LinkedIn and the social media networks. At the beginning, I just tried to help them. More than 10 and 15 people had the job offers, so that's why it started that we know how to help other people without any monetization. So why not to make it as a systematic help with the monetization services? So that's how I came to the creation of the IT Academy, which started back in 2 years ago, like 2021. So as of now, we have around 300 IT specialists into the market, spent into the market, and probably I can say that we're number one in the amount of offers in the sphere of product management, number one of the amount of the alumni, and probably number one who had the average salary in the market. That was also checked by the Tehorda program, who looks the average salary of each IT school. So that's why we had the compliance, so to called. And now we are having a new wave working with B2B companies. One of them are InDrive, one of the largest, probably known company in Kazakhstan. So we have like culmination of 2023 that we made an agreement, made a contract with that company, and now we're a bit proud of having like a new stage of our development.
So, and what's that agreement is about? You will be training people for the company, or?
Yes, it's similar to that. So basically, we have a 3 wave. One of the wave we will be working with InDrive. So we will be training and making a project with school students, the high school students, the grade of 10 and 11. So they will learn how to make their own project. Yes, and we think that the new level of our development in teaching the high school student is a great start for us as well.
From what you've just said, it seems like transitioning to a completely different profession seems as a thing now, as many people are transitioning. And sharing your personal experience, what has been the most, I would say, rewarding part of your journey so far?
It's a bit difficult question because I worked in 2 different startup companies and 3 large IT companies. So probably I would divide the rewarding moment for the startup and rewarding moment for the large company. For the startup, we made months over months. We call it MRR, which is the abbreviation for monthly recurring revenue. So basically, once we earned 100 tenge in January, we earned 102 tenge in February. So monthly recurring revenue was 2%. In 1 year, we made to the 7%, which was anomalous for the company before. So that's how I came to the senior product manager in a company and learned some leverages. That's why I helped company to prosper in that sphere. It was for a startup. It was all about money probably. For the large company, it was about the empathy that we are sharing with our coworkers, because in large company, having the right empathy and making the public reviews, we made it. The public review is the thing that you share your product's success with the shareholders. So we made it in a monthly basis. Everyone liked it. We used the memes. We used the different tactics and tricks. So that's why I call it like it's difficult to quantify it, but it's more about the quality things that we made in the large company.
Moving on to my next question, what has been some of the biggest challenges, but also some of the biggest opportunities you've seen yourself and overall in the Kazakh IT industry?
I prefer to start in Kazakhstan. I would divide the challenge into 2 groups. First is the macro thing, the second is micro thing. Macro challenges that we face, Kazakhstan acts like more now lagging variable, I would say, because IT boom has started around 15 years ago. In the rise of the FANG, now we call it MANG, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. They have started their own path, and the Belarus and Ukraine comrades has been in that and made endowment funds and different practices to have their specialists trained and prepared for that wave. Kazakhstan now has a bit lagging because all of that already been implemented, and now every country is about and ready to supply their IT specialists. But we also have a good side of that, but still it's one of the challenges that we are quite lagging. We're not lagging for 2-3 years, but quite lagging for 10 years. The second macro challenge is that we don't have a proper infrastructure yet. So now in the eve of, I would not say the eve, in the rise of the AI, artificial intelligence, we can see the nanochips, microchips from TSMC and large companies from like NVIDIA has been sold to mostly 3 countries. It's USA, Singapore and China. Kazakhstan has like 0.001 point of the nanochips has been purchased so far, and it means that we are not preparing for the next 10 years of the AI. The AI needs the very hefty data centers, and they need large infrastructure to be prepared of. But the Kazakhstan has been not only lagging from the previous era, but also are not prepared for the next era. So these are 2 the most important macro challenges, I would say. Going to the micro, they are not that important as a macro, but still we are not understanding our power, and we only recently started working with Turkic countries as an ecosystem. We are now only, last year we made some contracts with Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan as well, and Astana making a lot of things and creating leverages to work as a Turkic country together. So I would say this is the regional problem that we didn't help each other to prosper. So basically the good startup in Kazakhstan who can earn money not only in Kazakhstan, can earn also in Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan, and multiply their valuation to go into the strong markets like Southeast Asia, like Singapore, Indonesia, and more hefty markets like Europe and intense market like US. So they will be prepared of not only Dubai but also the US. Other 2 problems that comes to my mind is that we have a lot of problems with B2C startups because we are lack of the middle class that are not capable of paying that amount of money to generate the revenue that startups are willing to have and have their multiplier, because most startups have a multiplier of their annual revenue. So basically if your annual revenue is 100 tenge, basically you can multiply it to 7, 6, depends on the scope of industry. So that's the evaluation of your startup. So if a lot of money are centered in the governmental hands, so that's why that's the difficulty of having the right multiplication of the valuation of the startups, and probably this is the most challenging way to enter the other markets, because you cannot earn even right amount of money, I would say, revenue in the market, local market. And the last thing I would pin out is probably the maturity of the investors are now being created. I would say the ecosystem of the investors, probably it will be asked in other question, but the rise of investors are now only being entering to the market, because before that the understanding that you can earn either as being top manager or traditional entrepreneur, this is the only 2 things that you can earn the money. In the West, probably the startup founders and CEOs show how can they earn a lot of money, not in the sense that earning the money, but also the influencing the market.
And because Kazakhstan is lagging so much behind other countries worldwide, it seems like the country needs to just double pace, accelerate its pace in boosting the IT industry. And it's doing a lot already, we can see. And how would you assess like the government programs?
It's quite ambiguous question because I would say there are two sides of the of that question. I would divide the startup ecosystem into two. Is first one is governmental, the second one is private. Governmental one is like quite clear. It's Astana Hub and Kaz Innovations and several other less communities. On the side of the private community are Most Hub, My Ventures, Just Ventures, and other like small ventures like Active VC, now White Hill Capital also endowing and having acting as a broker for large money and tries to create an ecosystem that will show the VC history. But government tries to make a lot of things, but seems like we are doing better in the last 3 years than ever before by the hands of Astana Hub and the help of Astana Hub. But it seems like we are not doing enough for the creation of the startup. As you can see, there are a lot of investigations, a lot of papers that you've seen that US startup on average have $800. Meanwhile, Kazakhstani startup has less than $1 investment per startup. So even we are having very tiny amount of startups. We are not endowing much. That the understanding the failure of startup has not been popular yet. So first thing, we have to supply money enough that startups can fail, learn, and test with that amount. So that's why they will be more mature within a couple of the years. In short, in conclusion, Kazakhstan does a lot of compared to the last years, in the last 3 years, but it's not enough as we are acting as a lagging variable.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to people who aspire to transition to IT, aspiring product managers, startup founders?
It's quite difficult to give specific advice because every person has a own experience in the context they are living in. I would say if the goal is to just earn money, probably it's better not to transit because now IT boom has, I would say, had a winter, the hiring winter. But still, if you want to try to start up or transit to the IT, first try to find a community with which you can evolve together. I would say inner cycle. So basically how we transition to the IT movement, because inner cycle of our friend of friends has been transferred and we see the success case near each other. So that's why to have that inner cycle, if you have a friend that you talk more to their friends and ask more about, be curious. The second thing, patience for the, you cannot earn and learn that much within the short of time, but also invest long as a long investor, value investor, invest to your knowledge. And third, try to have to solve one problem, whether you have a problem, whether you solve as a startup that problem, find that problem and try to solve that problem. Once you solve the problem of the people and that amount of people, the more the larger problem you are trying to solve for the larger community, it means that you will have more monetization and you will have more influence in that community. So that's why you have to test, fail, test. It's like the reiteration of the your achievement. So that's why you have to learn on ongoing basis, not just to learn the theoretical side, but also learn by doing on demand basis, which will be more and more optimized for your learning way.
Mm-hmm. And how do you yourself engage with the community at the present moment, with the broader community?
Mm-hmm. We try to create our community, not only the product managers, but also other IT specialists. In Kazakhstan, I would say that a lot of great communities. We are trying to be part of that as well. There are a lot of conferences you might attend in Astana and Almaty as well. One of them are the Kazakh, that they are usually doing it in the autumn. And there are some conferences just before the summer, the B-Line conference, B-Tech conferences, and other conferences that be very interesting because a lot of IT specialists are sharing their experience about specific topic, how probably they increased the number of engaged users by having the right push notifications. So like that, you can learn on the not only in the conference, but having right and quality conversations with other specialists.
And what about such forums as Digital Bridge that just was the last fall in Astana and now in Almaty, these days in Almaty?
I would, one interesting disclaimer that Digital Almaty and Digital Bridge was hosted by Astana Hub before. Now Digital Bridge in Astana is now being hosted by Astana Hub, but in Almaty is hosted by Tech Garden. They are two different entities. So basically, there are large and probably monumental, I would say, events in Kazakhstan has never been before. The most important thing, they are not just calling the top CEOs, like TikTok CEO was Mr. Churhas, came to Astana Hub, and they're also trying to make a collaboration with them, which is the great sign for us as well. Government now is being more practical in that sense, so that forums are probably one of the important events for us as of now. I don't know about the implementation of that events for the MSBs, SMEs, small and medium enterprises, but still they're creating a new wave of the awareness of general public about the IT, about the importance of AI.
And there were plenty of people on the last
yeah,
Digital
sure.
Bridge in Astana.
People like the events of like that, and I would say more. I was been in large Dubai conferences and Web Summit in Lisbon. Web Summit is now being hosted in Qatar. So the MENA, now Middle East and North Africa, tries to copy, not just copy, but also to call that specialist. Like Web Summit, it's the largest IT conference for the last 10 years, has been hosted in Lisbon, Portugal. Now is being hosted in Qatar. And in Dubai, there are also some large conferences. We try to make a similarity of the importance of these events.
With your personal experience, what are some of the lessons that you wish you knew before you started your journey yourself?
It's quite difficult question because I knew nothing before my starting the journey. The most important thing, you have to test more. As a startup, you have double your pace compared to the large companies. So basically, you have to test one interesting hypothesis in a week. So that's why you can test 52 different hypotheses in a year. So the intensity and frequency of the hypothesis should be probably the major thing that startup has to follow. Because once you test the hypothesis by even like a simple framework called HADI, you make a hypothesis. The second abbreviation is A, you made an action to test that hypothesis. You then gather the data. So basically you want to make purchase button green instead of the red. So basically you test the increase of the auditory and purchases. So you had gathered the data and had an insights of that about the data. So basically hypothesis, action, data, and insights. So having the frequency of that action, you will gather more and more information about your auditory, about the user personas that your startup might have, and you may, at some point you might even make a pivot and change your development of your project. So that's why you knew the feedback from your auditory from the market. So that's why you make more useful product that really solves the challenges and problems that your customers face. Once you don't do the hypothesis and don't have a feedback from the market, just use the creation of the project for a couple of months, you just burn the money from the investor, and you probably might not learn the real problem behind the customer face. So
you mentioned about the investors, and I know that for any startup company and small businesses, it's very important to attract investors. And from your personal experience and in general, what are some of the maybe biggest challenges in attracting investors? Because I know that it's a long and thorny path.
As I said, the rise of investor mindset is now being the incubation period in Kazakhstan. The most important challenge is the personal thing that you have to create with an investor. Most startup founders, I would say, they want the investment now or tomorrow, right? But you have to create a communication first with that investor, have the same vibe, I would say, because it is the people who, they are the people who wants to help you as well, but they want to have a solid, not only solid information about you, but to also have the personal touch, I would say, because they are the people with whom you will walk together for part of your life. In the US, even it's called like investor are more important than wife, because you will spend more time with him or her than with your partner. Most important thing that most founders don't do is they are not creating value and quality conversations with investors. I would say this is the first. Second thing that founders also have to have a clear traction. So what you did, what was your not only the revenue, monthly active users, all your product metrics, like in January last year, you have to show them also in the middle of the year, show them the quartile business reviews, how you evolve, what are the challenges, and show them all in your pitch deck. So that's why you can clearly communicate what challenges you face, how the money attracted from investors can help that to solve that issue. Sometimes not the money the only issue, but the founder's approach and the mindset that he has to solve without that money. So basically, you have to have first clear communication, second, show your traction, and third, probably give clear traction that you can earn and solve challenges without investors' money. So be independent. In that sense, investors' money can help you to prosper and increase your valuation, not only of your startup, but also to jump into the next stage.
Returning back to your point about the need for regional cooperation, what are some of the steps that can be taken to develop and expand that regional cooperation? And the second one is your academy open to specialists from other countries, not only Kazakhstan?
Replying to the first question, yes, there were several steps, and I would say they are quite successful. First of them, Central Asian countries have first in history created a regional hub in the US, in California, in Palo Alto, like Silicon Valley that we know. So it was the first great movement from different countries that worked together, and first time in the history created regional hub that supports Central Asian startups in the Silicon Valley. The second thing that we cross-share several events like InMerge Summit in Baku, Digital Bridge in Astana, and I forgot the name of the conference. It's pretty large conference, was held in Tashkent in Uzbekistan, like at the end of, in the late November. So there are large events, monumental events in 3 different countries that they are trying to share with each other. And Astana Hub in Kazakhstan, IT Park in Uzbekistan, and Sabah incubation labs in Azerbaijan are now working together to create and foster startups movement. And even more, the Uzbekistan large bank, Aloka Bank, now invests in Kazakhstani startup. Kazakhstani ecosystem invests in Tajikistan, Uzbekistan startups as well. So we try to help each other to find, I would say, investor and startup relationships. It's the second thing, and the first thing, the creation the lab in the US. Second is the cross-sharing of the knowledge in large events, and third is the investor-startup relationship. That's how it's being evolved now. And the second question, yes, our IT Academy tries to make some impact. We are now giving some scholarships and grants for Uzbekistani, Kyrgyzstani, and Azerbaijani students. More of that, they are applying to our academy. We are trying to help not only Kazakhstani market, and also the CIS and the Central Asian market as well. So that's how we try to envision our development as well.
And on the final question, how do you envision the development of the IT industry moving forward, and specifically this year and the upcoming years too?
It's all about AI right now. It's all about the AI, but the AI is top of mind. People doing the AI now in the biomedicine and the specific like aircrafts and where the most research and development stage are needed. There are some prosperous startups in Europe and US that are doing the organic meals, and the AI stuff does the organic meals and the analogous to the meat stuffs. So I would say the most money will be there for the couple of next years. They are now in the research phase in the biotech, I would say, in biotech sphere. So I see that the AI will help mostly to detect the most challenging type of the diseases, and they will be doing in the nutrition. They will be evolving also in the most difficult type of surgery, and so I believe that a lot of money lays in that point. So I see the rise of the AI more and more in our daily practical rituals, not only in them, but as a lot of people can see now, it lightens our life a bit. But I think most of money and most of the development are now being we don't see them right now, right away, but they are in the stage of rise, especially in the biomedicine sphere. But the difficult thing that we are lacking of one of the important things, like having the right proper of the water. We don't have like the most needed bucket for the living, but still we are developing in the AI. It's controversial, but it is as it is. We have right now, but the development of IT sphere I see in the AI right now. Otherwise, market was already saturated by IT specialists because of we can see the large layoffs from the IT companies that invested and burned a lot of $1 billion. More than $50 billion by the media that was written, the Meta as well, because they invested a lot in VR and AR, but now probably they will be doing more in efficient way. So the hiring stage will be now more or less hindered and will be done more practically rather than investing a lot of money. Now people and large companies counting the money, so that's why the hiring IT specialists will be a way less in the intense, but way more having the practical approach. So that's why I believe IT market will evolve, but more with a focus on AI, probably, and AI and specific niches like biomedicine. So probably the specialists with a narrow focus of study in the field. Probably I believe the PhDs will be more in demand in the future because they have already a specific knowledge in that niche and sphere. So that's why they will have more importance and influence to develop the IT companies field.
And AI seems, from one hand, it's very impressive in what it can do, but on the other hand, it's very frightening because we can see how, the adverse side of AI, especially I can see as a journalist in the journalism sphere, what things it can do. And I'm just wondering, how do you yourself incorporate AI in your life, in your work, in your daily routine?
I have several paid subscriptions, including the GPT, and I would say it helps you to restrict the capability of creativity. So once you have a right proportion of creativity, you can do a lot of things having the less ability in that sphere. So basically learn to play music, create the music, so you even have your less talent in creating music by having right prompts. You can generate the pictures, make a music. In that sense, it helps you to have more ability to create, and also helps you to optimize your daily work, basically creating the content, basically doing some writing stuff. It helps you to have more work done within the less time, for sure. But talking about the other sides, yes, it probably unequals the work and probably depreciates the work of some specialists, but it can be solved once you're trying to make more of your practical work in that sense. It's quite difficult to talk about that. Probably it will be the long story. So basically, it helps in my work to optimize some routine stuff, and in daily work, it helps to have a AI-generated content that I can read, and it helps me to have a right content that are really interesting for me. Probably TikTok does it right now, and the other things that creating the quizzes, creating some content for the teaching materials, it also helps. So far I benefit, but I also understand some frightening effects of that.
Yes, which we should just hope that AI machine won't replace us sometime in the future. And that's a wrap on my questions. Thank you very much, Bakytzhan, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting. It was also a pleasure for me too.